What I wanted to talk about was the Jeezy and Nia Long interview, and I posted on Facebook just my thoughts about it. And the thing that I took away from Jeezy, and I'll read it because I can't think of it off the top of my head. But one thing that really, really stuck with me, let me pull that up. One thing that really stuck with me when Jeezy said, most of the time when people do something to hurt you, it's out of fear, but I didn't understand that at first. I thought this was personal. You're trying to hurt me, so I have to hurt you first. And that hit so much for me because in this post I said, I've been working on forgiveness for a while now. And some people, it's easier to forgive than others, right? But the person that I found the hardest to forgive in my healing process, in my getting closer to God process, just this whole journey that I'm on, the hardest person I found to forgive, or hardest person to forgive, I should say, is myself. And I didn't elaborate, but I said that because in hindsight, looking backwards, a lot of times as you're growing, learning, getting better, maybe some places where you may be bitter, whatever, all those emotions that you go through in healing, because there are great days, there are good days, there are bad days, there are feels like regret, field days, whatever you call those. But some of those days I really feel like, dang, just like you knew better. Like, how did you go for this? Or how did you even, like, not even pointing the finger at someone else, like literally pointing back at me, because I'm responsible for my part in any situation, any relationship, anything. I'm only responsible for my part, right? But I think I might have mentioned it in another video. Like, sometimes we show up from a place of desperation, or like eagerness, or just like we're missing something, or loneliness, or whatever it may be, when we connect with people. And I guess you can say that more so in relational. But so many times, and even I think when trying to reconcile with people, maybe your parents or friends or whoever it may be, we show up because we desperately want that relationship to work, or we do want to resolve, and maybe the other person isn't budging as much. But when we don't take the time to actually do the inner work that we need to do, we kind of allow people to either run all over us, or maybe get away with some things that we wouldn't necessarily or normally let them get away with, or we accept people back halfway. We're trying to do better, but they can come back any type of way as long as I have them back in my life, right? Or something like that. And I'm just trying to make blanket statements, but for whatever the reason or whatever the scenario. So when you think about these things looking back, sometimes we can get upset with ourselves, like, how did I allow that? Or how was I naive not to see that? Or I really don't think I'm worthy of a good spouse, or my parents mistreated me. I'm an adult now and I still allow my parents to mistreat me or to handle me a certain kind of way, or friends or whatever. And you kind of beat yourself up like, they did that because I allowed them to. That realization that we have more control than we try to, maybe in the beginning phases, like, he did me like this, or she did me like this, or they did me like this. And you really start doing that inner work and you realize you had more say, you had more control in that situation than you thought at that time, that you knew at that time. And so I think that beating yourself up, or maybe if you didn't show up the best that you could have, or you done someone wrong, or you messed up a situation, or were wrong in a situation, and you start beating yourself up over that. So I think, because like they say, you are your worst critic for sure. And you have to live with you, no one else but you, for the rest of your life. So all these thoughts flood your mind. And so I believe that while you're healing and you're trying to do better and trying to do that inner work, sometimes it's hardest to forgive yourself. And for me, it has been me that has been the hardest that I could forgive. However, as I'm getting deeper into the word, as I'm getting further in my spiritual journey, I feel more at peace. I feel, you know, not just making excuses or not just letting it fly or anything like that of what I did because it was me or taking it easy on me. I feel like, you know, God has really given me the ability to forgive myself as I have been able to do others, but for myself now too. But I was the hardest one to forgive. So that is one point that I had there were so many takeaways from the Nia Long and Jeezy interview. So many. The being able to open up and have important conversations with your spouse and being your safe space for your spouse and support and really doing inner work together. Like he was saying, when you're ready to do that work or you're ready to fix some things, but the spouse is not ready or they're not willing or they're not supportive or whatever, it's hard to stay in that relationship when those things happen. Do I agree that everything should lead to divorce just because we're not on the same page? I don't think so. Sometimes, your spouse can be on, you can be off, and vice versa. And I don't know the severity of what that situation was, so I'm not speaking on someone else's marriage. All I'll say about that is I think that divorce should be the last result or last resort. In once you're married, I really think that that's the last resort for sure. But I understood what he was saying. When it's time to change, to grow, to heal, and your spouse is not there to do that with you, it's hard. I can understand that for sure. And I wrote that another life lesson that I learned and came to mind while watching this video was to do better at picking your spouse. And I was saying, like, many times when we don't pick the right spouse, we'll go from one after another, after another, after another, with not really having much space or time in between. Maybe some months, maybe some years, and not even being intentional in those years with the healing or, healing the past, your traumas, your relational issues with them, or whatever it may be, or doing inner work to be better, to show up better, whatever it may be. We don't really take that time. Sometimes we get lonely or, we feel like if I don't, get with this person right now, I may miss out on the opportunity. Or, a lot of people just are not in the right headspace during, transitions out of relationships. So we are sometimes jumping into another relationship to another. And a lot of times pointing the finger at the other person or feeling like they are the majority at fault. Okay, I might have had some fault, but they are majority at fault for whatever happened between us. So why do I have to stay single? I can move on. I can get into another relationship, or not even thinking about it much. Just feeling like, okay, I can move on. Life goes on. Life is short. Let me be with someone else. And as time goes on and as real situations start, to pop up, like I said, this is what I said. I don't want to just read it, but what I said was, we have to do better at picking our spouses. I said, they may look the part and act the part, but when change happens, when the storms come and or you really need them the most, is when you discover if who you picked was there to really weather the storms with you, or they just looked like they would be. Many times we choose our spouse one after another with not much space in between to do that necessary work within. Doing that inner work helps us to recognize the discernment or intuition, giving us the ability to choose the one or the right one from the beginning. Do the necessary work so that you can show up better, attract people that have done their inner work, and you will be able to see a counterfeit when you encounter it. And I'm sorry, guys, I didn't want to just read that directly, but I didn't want to miss my thought or to glance over the things that I wrote here, because to me it was so profound. It was something I feel like God gave me in my spirit, like today when I was speaking with those girls, and I'm going to do another video on that. But this specifically, I want to stay on topic. That has been revelation for me many, many nights. Like, you're so mad at this other person that they didn't show up the way that they said they would. They didn't keep up to their end of the bargain, or they didn't do their part, or they fell short when it comes to, from our eyes, from our perspective, from our point of view. But many times we didn't even attract someone that was capable or able to show up the way that we thought that they would, because we didn't do our work. We didn't do our necessary work to be able to see that they weren't what we thought they were. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, I know that people can, I don't even know how to word it, but some people can play you. They can act like they are everything that you need them to be, everything that you want them to be, especially if maybe you were friends with them before, or you had conversations with them about maybe your previous relationships, or whatever the case may be. They see your weaknesses, should I say, something like that. And so they put on this front to be everything that they thought you wanted, or whatever it took to get you. And then when storms came or something really happened, you see that they turned out to be what you didn't think. They're a counterfeit, in other words. And sometimes that may be the case, but I really believe that if you do the inner work that's required, we'll have the discernment, we'll have the ability, the intuition, the ability to choose better, to know after some time with them, even, after some time before really, really getting deep and heavy into a relationship, you'll be able to see early on, like, this is a good person, this is a cool person, but I don't think we're a good fit. And sometimes I don't think that we overlook those things because this person feels good to us, they seem good to us, they're, good to us or whatever, but not necessarily what we need. And sometimes we don't have the ability to say that. We overlook a lot of things. And I just think that now, where God has me, I don't think I'm already at 100%, up to part to be able to come out into the world. And I'm not going to say pick another spouse, because I feel like a man should be choosing a woman, and I'm keeping it biblical, 100% biblical. But being able to be chose and choose your spouse, in the right way, because I've said I feel like I'm not all the way up to par. I'm not 100% yet, but I feel like I'm getting there. And so right now, I just think about how important it is not to introduce, being physical with people or going further with people than you should for a while. Not just because you're trying to have a rule or you're trying to see how long someone can hold out on something. But I just feel like if that has been how you've operated all these years with all your spouses, and everything kind of led down the same road, you're by yourself, you're single, you're divorced, whatever the case may be, try something different. Try to approach that situation different. And that's doing the inner work. For me, it's been getting closer to God, really, really discovering who God created me to be, the desires of my heart, knowing that God will give me the desires of my heart if I'm obedient, if I am, I'm not going to say sacrificial or do the sacrifices that are necessary, but obedient, definitely. I don't want to get too far into that, but obedient and doing what I need to do to be a better person, to show up as a better person. And then that will allow me to attract a better person, and not just being in a rush, just trying to keep doing it my way, because I've been doing it my way for many years. And although it's brought greatness in my life, I have 3 beautiful children, but life has been a lot harder because I've been doing it my way. I thought my way was the best way. Don't we all, right? But anyway, I'll wrap this up. That's my takeaway from the Jeezy and Nia Long interview. Great, great takeaways. It was great to see a man of color, definitely healing, desiring to heal, really doing that inner work. Same with Nia Long. She did great as an interviewer as well. And just being transparent and just that healthy conversation that I think we all need with, friends, for sure, like healthy friends that we know that are really our friends. But most importantly, if you're desiring to have a spouse, because not everyone does, but being able to have that foundation with your spouse from the beginning, to be able to be somebody's friend, evolving that into relational, of course, submitting that relationship before God, making sure that you are taking the next step with that person, because God said that you should, not because our flesh desires to. But there's so many levels to that. But that's my takeaway. That was my thoughts today. I do not feel the best today. To me, in my opinion, I really just threw myself together and went out the house today. And I just got all these revelations, and I said, just don't hold off. Do the video. Of course, y'all know me. I'm not going to edit it unless something is truly wrong somewhere in the video. But other than that, I am who I am. You're going to get who you get. You're going to see who you see here. So I pray that this has definitely inspired someone, has helped someone. I would suggest that if you haven't, to go look at the video yourself and really, man, put your listening ears on, be ready to receive whatever it is through that you can get, and really be open to the inner work on you, not pointing the finger at others. I think that Jesus did a great job at not pointing the finger at anyone, at his mother, his father, his spouse, any of that. He really, really took accountability and got deep in that conversation, and it was great to see. But bye for now. I'll do another video about some conversations that I wanted to talk about. But thank you for tuning in. I always forget to say, if you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. And I appreciate you all. And I hope that this has been inspirational. Until the next video, see you later. Mwah.